Okay, guys, we are back today with the Coach Trap podcast. This week, we are very fortunate to have the amazing Simon Cook, and he has the most incredible story. He's not just an online coach, but he works from the Cayman Islands. And I must admit, I'm incredibly jealous to find out what his work life balance looks like, more about the Cayman Islands, how he's done it. Simon, thank you so much for joining us. I'd love to know a little bit more about you and a little bit about this crazy journey to the Cayman Islands.
Well, thank you for inviting me on. So this crazy journey started about 2 years ago. My wife was going through a patch like most people do, where she was bored at her job, and I was being the wonderful husband, and saying just apply for anything that takes your mind, apply for it. And she applied. She found this job in the Cayman Islands. She went, so I applied for it. I'm like, yeah, go for it, not thinking that she would. And then she got the interview, and then she got the job. And we waited about 4 or 5 months. So she got the job in April 2 years ago. And then we waited until November to actually hear that she's got it. And then we moved out the following February. So it was all quite quick. My wife is a speech therapist, and she works on the island doing we live on Cayman Brac. So you don't know about the Cayman Islands. They're actually made up of 3 islands. So you've got Grand Cayman, Cayman Brac, and Little Cayman. And we're on the second island that is Cayman Brac. Yeah. And we've been here since last February. Things have been going up and down, but it's been an experience.
Amazing.
Yeah. I
Look,
mean, the way life
it's
is
such an
different.
amazing story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the way life is different. We're on a small island. We have limited resources in terms of there's not a Tesco down the road. And we have small supermarkets. But yeah, it's a different way of life. Traffic is next to nothing. And it's a really interesting sort of life to live here.
Wow. So absolutely love that story. And it's really interesting. And what was I was fascinated about when we first met is me and Dan are doing similar things with the Coach Trap. You know, we decided to leave the UK, decided to travel with it. And then the more research you do, you realize that, 35% of digital nomads are business owners. 67% of remote workers, they want what you've got, if that makes sense. They're looking to sort of have that balance behind, working and paradise, But I think it'd be great if I could, even get Dan's input on this. What's the real power from working online? What's the real benefits between, your practice in taking to that online?
Yeah, I think it's obviously a kind of a new thing. They don't really know much about it. Most people, I would say, are maybe a little bit too invested in one place, possibly. But I think there's a lot of people who really like to travel and love that freedom. So yeah, I mean, starting a business is really hard as well. So I think if you've done that and if you've been able to get clients from that, you definitely deserve to be able to travel and do these cool things.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going that. I mean, it's the way we are working now has really changed ever since COVID. That 5 years ago, where people realised actually I don't need to be in the office now. I can work away from home. I can be in my own space and feel safer. And that's now changed into the coaching and the therapy background, where we're realizing now we don't need to be in a stuffy room on a chair, where you can be actually in your own living space, listening to the therapist or the coach, and not having to go anywhere.
Simon, I would also love to know
Wow, that's
how has
amazing.
it changed going from in person to like online with clients? How would you say compared to the UK with the Cayman Islands?
I mean, I was working online back in the UK as well. I mean, big difference to me is the time difference. Obviously, you guys,
Yeah.
it now is now 4 a.m., 4 p.m. Your guys, we're going into 11 o'clock here. So it's just understanding that you may be midday, but your clients may be in the evening or maybe in the morning. So it's understanding, like, so making sure that you are aware of what time is your client is at. So you may think, if you've got a client in the UK, it might be that you have to get up early your time to make it work for them and make it work for them. But yeah, no, it's a different experience. I mean, I do summer breath and my coaching over and my hypnotherapy online as well. It's a you get the same project, and you can really sort of still push it and move on. And if you've got something online, then you can put it onto YouTube or onto your Instagram. You can use areas of that in your own marketing as well, up to a point. But online coaching, I think people are now getting that you don't need to be in in the same space. It's more like where I'm 4,000 miles away from you guys, but we're having a really good conversation. So it doesn't change things. And that's
That's amazing. That's amazing. Simon, I've got a question for you, and this will really help me and Dan out on our journey as we start to become digital nomads and take the coach trap away. One of the things I was warned about when I was going to, take my practice from the UK and take it abroad was hedonistic adaptation, where you get used to your surroundings, if that makes sense. And almost, I was told that you could be anywhere in the world. Sometimes it doesn't matter. Do you ever have that where or do you still pinch yourself every morning that you're in the Cayman Islands? Because obviously that's a big thing for me and Dan. One of the big things this is taking us abroad is having a better climate, the beaches, the culture, the food, everything. That's amazing with that. But do you get used to it?
you do get used to it. I mean, we've been here almost a year and a half, and you get used to it after a while. I mean, there's some days where I walk down and literally I can walk out of my door, turn left, walk 500 yards, and I'm on the beach. And it's beautiful, clear, blue sky, blue sand, white sand, blue waters, and I can go and snorkel and dive and all that kind of thing. So there's sometimes where but then again, I've got a normal family life. I've got my family, my kids, they go to school, wife goes to work. It, 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 it does become the norm. And I think when we come home, whenever that is, we'll have a bit of a character change of, oh, we're home now. Because yeah, there are cultural differences. There are, I mean, it's hot here almost 24/7. And we have things like hurricanes. We're now in the main hurricane season. So yeah, and I suppose also from a coaching point of view, there's the different cultures and a different way of people think and differently to where it might be in the UK. So you got to look at, if you're looking at not doing but both online and in person, you've got to look at what is the local climate, and are there other coaches here that I can combine with, or what is it they are looking for, because they might have a different way of thinking than you do now.
That's really, really interesting. Have you found it quite easy to link up with other coaches and look to, sort of like I was going to say co-work and cohabit, but and Dan, do you have any sort of like tips for networking, if you like?
Well, for me, most of my networking comes obviously from online, but I do think there is some benefit to meeting people in person, and kind of becoming not just acquaintances, but actually friends, and like really trust each other as well. But yeah, I think for me, I would always meet people online because I've obviously got that platform to be able to do that. But then to arrange to meet in person is obviously going to take it to the next level, and it's going to allow you to connect a bit more and maybe collaborate a bit better on projects and stuff. But I don't think there's really any secret. I think you've just got to be yourself, and you'll end up attracting with your content and with your DMs people that you actually get on with. I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, I totally agree with Dan there. I mean, I've met with a few other people here. We're collaborating and sort of looking at ways we can do, because they know the market. They're already here. They've already got a set up business, so they already know the do's and don'ts and what works and what doesn't. So I'm working with yoga studios and other people out here doing things like that. And yeah, it takes time to form those relationships. And I mean, the best way to do is go on Instagram or Facebook, look around the local area, type in where you are and what other people are doing, and collaborate with them, because they will have the inside, especially the locals. They will have the inside knowledge about what works and what doesn't. But again, the online stuff is kind of like, might have, especially certainly here in the Cayman Islands, it's very seasonal. So currently we are in a quiet period. And I know it's summer back home, but from sort of July till September, it's quiet here in the islands. The island empties. The population drops dramatically. So I'm still looking to then say, well, even though you're back in America or back in the Britain, I can still work with you because I can do this online. So you may get clients that live there, but then disappear back to their homes elsewhere. But you can still say, well, I can still work with you, because we can Zoom, or we can FaceTime, or we can do that as well.
That's where working online is obviously so powerful, isn't it? Is that you can have that longevity, you can keep that connection going, if you like. Interestingly, we talked a little bit about Lionsgate, and we talked a little bit about the summer, the solstice. Does that play a lot into your business, Simon? Is that a big sort of, attraction? Is that one of the things that you gain people's
There's
interest
elements
in?
to it. I mean, if you look at the wellness business and the sort of kind of business, um, if we were talking a few years ago, as I said before, I would have gone really, but actually now looking into it, I can see how things like Lion Gate and the full moons and the new moons and everything actually affects who you affects the thing and affects your clientele. You will get clients who are who know that they are during certain moon phases they're like this. They might be more angry. They might be more thing so that so you can work with them, and that it's a good thing to do. I mean, I did a summer solstice event a few weeks ago, which is really amazing. And just the power of being there on that day and doing things was amazing. I did a one a couple of nights ago on the full on a new moon, and again the moon is coming up and people being around. So yeah, it's an interesting holistic take, which I think is becoming much more aware now. And what's funny with with the holistics and with wellness is that these things aren't new. They have been around for centuries. They're things that our ancestors believed in and worked on. And then over the centuries, the Western society have sort of poo-pooed them. And now we're going back to them. Now we're looking at actually this works. The whole moon thing, you can see where the sea rises and all that kind of thing. It's all connected.
So, yeah, I absolutely love that. And the reason I say that is my wife's talked about Lionsgate a lot, and she talked about the solstice a lot. And I'd imagine that's your sort of like target market, isn't it? That's the person the sort of like ideal client that you want to go for. Dan, that stuff must be trending massively on X and Instagram. Is that, would you have that in every caption, every CTA, or your main bodies of your content? How would you put that out there?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's like trending in the mainstream, like a lot of people know about it. I would say it is definitely on the up though. So if you can talk about that and make it your thing that makes you a bit different and makes you memorable to those people who believe in that stuff, it's obviously going to make you a much more successful person, a much more successful, memorable brand. But yeah, I would say it's definitely going to make you a little bit different. Yeah.
Absolutely.
I would also say don't poo-poo it. Don't go, it's rubbish, because it's me. If you don't believe in it, that's fine, but your clients might. So if you've got a client who is into that stuff, do some research, find out what's going on in their lives, add it to your practice, because that way you're expanding your knowledge. I mean, a bit about me. I learned hypnotherapy and tone breath over a 5 year period. If you had talked to me 10 years ago, we wouldn't be talking, because I didn't believe. I was very well, oh, it's all mumbo jumbo. It doesn't actually work. Now, actually, over the past 5 years, I've learned a lot about the subject and gone, actually, there is something here. And things like breath work, soma breath, which is what I practice, has now had scientific background by a Cambridge study have done a study into the breath work and realized, yeah, it does do A, B, and C. And then we've gone back further and gone, the ancients knew about this because we got text about it, and this is why they did it. And now we've got scientific proof. This is what was happening. Back then, it was down to the gods, and it was down to, well, actually now we know it was down to the human psyche and what we're doing. So we've gone from ancient mumbo jumbo to modern day physical knowledge and respect. So from my point of view, I always look at what the client's saying, and even if I don't, even if I'm thinking, okay, this is a bit weird, I'm still looking at it and going, right, there must be some reason why they've got this in them, and I look into it and find out research and go, actually, I understand where you're coming from.
Wow. So powerful. Sort of like, transforming or creating a course for the needs of a client. I think that's something that we talk to everyone that we work with, Dan, isn't it? Is it's not about you. it's about them, and you want to solve their problems and help them with their interests. Fascinating stuff. Me and Dan have obviously, talked a lot about niching down. Actually, like, it's quite easy to be a meditation or breath work, but actually sometimes coming down a little bit more specific helps, doesn't it, Dan? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. I think also going back to the breath work and the moon phases and stuff, talking about what you believe in is going to obviously attract people that get on with you genuinely as well. And that goes back to, again, the networking, which is obviously really important because you don't really want clients that you have to convince your beliefs with in order for it to work, you know? So it's really important. Even if you got the views from those people who aren't really getting on with you, it just wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter anyway because it wouldn't turn into anything, you know? So I think that's really important.
I think the important thing there as well is I think when I first started my coaching experience, I was after everything. Like everybody, everything was going. I said if someone was interested, be like, oh yeah, I can help and I can do that. And I certainly there was a few clients which when I first started, which I think now I shouldn't have taken, that we didn't bond, but because I was very eager and very kind of I can solve everything. I didn't then think, hang on, do I have enough knowledge about this? Do I have the experience to do that, or do I hand it to another colleague, or find more information there? So as a new coach, it's understanding what your beliefs are, and also what you can do. You don't want to overstride yourself. You don't want to, because if you overstride yourself, you're gonna fail because you don't have the experience you think you need that you have. So it's a matter of picking those clients and going, I know I can work with you, and then moving on from there.
That's a really good point. Dan, I've got a question for you. I think that will link really well to Simon. We've worked with breathwork coaches before, and I remember one guy in particular. He was fantastic, and he had this real amazing. His accent was fantastic. He had the look. He had everything. But we tried to convince him that actually sometimes a little bit maybe similar to what you're doing. Actually, maybe it's not all about one-to-one clients. You can be a coach on YouTube, you can be a coach with an online program, an audio course, etc., etc. There's many different ways to boil an egg. And Dan, we've had coaches on that have said they've got 7 different income streams, for example. Dan, is there different ways to put this out? And Simon, is there how can people find you? What's the best way to invest themselves in one of your courses? I guess it's best to start with you, Simon, and then Dan, we can maybe dive a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I mean, I've got a website, so it's www.hypnotic-change.co.uk. You'll find my website on there. You'll find me on Instagram and Facebook with hypnotic no, hypnotic light hyphen change on there as well. There is a TikTok and our YouTube account as well. They're very infancy on there as well, but you'll find me on all the socials at Hypnotic Change on that. And if you want to get in contact, my email is simon@hypnoticlinechange.com.
So, Dan, how would you package this? Does it just have to be one-to-ones? Could you do it a little differently? What's your
I think it's all really decided by the content that you put out and who that attracts and budgets mainly because I think you can't try and attract low ticket and high ticket at the same time. I think you've got to focus on one or the other one is going to suffer and then it's going to become like they're both going to come bad rather than one would be good and one wouldn't be there. If that makes sense. But obviously we go for the high ticket people, but we also occasionally have people on calls that we get on with. Maybe they don't have the budget or they're not the right fit for the main coaching program, which we have the book for that, we have the course for that. So it is important to have those different aspects of it as well to kind of try and be accommodating and maybe funnel them into the main offer eventually. But you've definitely got to focus on one. And I would say for most people, high ticket is the way to go, especially if you're a beginner and you haven't got that many testimonials, just because you've got to be very good at what you do to package everything into a course and for people to trust you instantly. You've really got to have those testimonials, the reviews of the high ticket people before you can get into the low ticket community building, course selling kind of thing. I see a lot of people on Instagram as well trying to sell courses of things that they've never actually coached in, which always makes me cringe. And I've never seen that actually do well either. So yeah, definitely focus on one. And if I were you, I would focus on the high ticket. That's my answer to that.
I love that. Dan, that's such a great thing. And that's one of my sort of like mottos in life, not just with the coach trap, but with everything I do. You can't lead others down a path if you haven't walked it yourself. And we see that a lot, don't we, Dan? A lot of coaches, where they're like 20-year-old life coaches, you'd be like, how can you talk about life if you haven't experienced it yourself? But Simon, I think, it'd be really great if our listeners, and your potential clients could have some take homes. Any immediate tips, or what would be your mottos? What would be your what would be the best thing that a client could take from your work?
If in doubt, breathe and breathe slow. So a lot of us, when we get anxious, when our mind are running at 5 miles an hour, just take your time, slow down, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, and do that for like 2 or 3 minutes, and you'll find yourself just slowing down really quickly, rather than hyperventilating or just really just sit down, or stand up, sit down, and just breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth, and this you'll find you slow down and come to a quicker a place of sanity quickly. When we're and yeah, just breathe, just breathe properly. So breathe in through your nose, out through your mouth, breathe from your diaphragm, not from your chest, and just see how quickly it happens that you are in this place where you can feel sensible and secure. The other thing is, and I learned this from one of my mentors, is that the words we say to ourselves are the worst words that we say. So we all tell ourselves that we're idiots. We all tell ourselves that we're rubbish, that we're useless, that we're not good enough. Change those words. Change those words to "I am great. I am useful. I am enough." Like I mean, I teach my kids when we're having those moments of when they're telling me, "Daddy, I'm useless," and no, you're not useless. Let's go. Let's work through this and go from that, and talk and talk about it, and write down on a piece of paper what your goals are. Make sure they're smart. Make sure they're intelligent. And see how breath work can, even like a 5 minute breath work, can really keep you going. And like you said before, there are coaches that, well, I have thought I have I I'm a breathwork coach, and I try and do my best to do my own breathwork every day. Sometimes I don't, sometimes I do, but I had someone tell me yesterday, a few days ago, make sure you're practicing. Make sure you're practicing what you're preaching, because people can tell. People can tell that you're not practicing what you're preaching, that you're just there for the money or whatever have you. Make sure that you are practicing yourself as well.
Wow. Love that. Powerful stuff. I got two questions. My first one would be to you, Dan. Dan, for me, that was so powerful. I was dialed in. The hairs on my back and my neck were turned up, if you like. How do you put that into writing? What would be the best place to repurpose it? What would be the best place to put out your life, your life story so it resonates with others, creating hooks, etc. What would you do with that?
Yeah, it's definitely harder to get it from video into writing, that kind of story. But what I would say is, with your clients at the moment, or with whoever your potential clients could be, ask them what problems they're having. Ask them what they want to know from you. And what I'd say to that is, you then put it into a couple of sentences, just starting out an intro. Then think of a story about when you've solved it before, maybe for yourself or maybe for another client. Talk about that. I think it doesn't really matter in that story how you write it. It doesn't have to be like all optimized, copyrighted, all of that. It just has to come from you. Because again, that links to people are going to connect with you rather than connect with ChatGPT or whoever's optimizing it. So get those good questions, answer them with some good stories, because obviously stories do better, especially when they're personal. And then tell them at the end as well, like, if you enjoyed this, I think I can help you with some other stuff. Go to my website, book a call, whatever that might be, the CTA. And it's just as simple as that, really. I think people overcomplicate it quite a lot, but it doesn't have to be too complicated. It just that's what has worked for us, and obviously a lot of clients. So yeah, it's doing well in 2025.
Love that. Simon, I got one last question for you, one opportunity for a great bit of storytelling. I picked up on something that you said. me and Dan are both here because obviously we've been inspired by others, you know, mentors, however you want to call it, right? You openly talked about a mentor. You don't have to tell us who it was, but I can imagine it's not Wim Hof. I can imagine that's not the reason why you're here. Tell us a little bit more about that. What was the inspiration
So,
behind,
so
you know, this niche, this area that you've led yourself to?
So my first lot of training was something called RTT, or Rapid Transformational Therapy. And Marissa Peer, you may have heard of her. She is the person who designed the therapy. And I was lucky enough that just after COVID, I went on a 3-day course with her personally and a group of us. And she's great when it comes to understanding the mind. And that was a direct quote. Is that one of her quotes is, "The mind does what you tell it." Or the words that you tell your mind, it becomes it. Uh, I mean, she talks about it's been talked about before, but if you're driving to work and you're telling yourself, "I'm going to be sick. I'm not. I'm going to be sick." It's almost or I don't want, or no, sorry, I don't want to go to work. It's guaranteed that 3 days later you won't be going to work because you're ill, because you've told your body, "I don't want to go to work." So your body's going, well, your mind and your body's main thing is to look after you. So if you're telling your mind, "I don't want to go to work," it's going to find a way of stopping you. And that may be through illness or through being tired, but just be careful about the way. And also Niraj, who runs Soma Breath, he's amazing when it comes to quotes, and I've learned a lot from him as well. So yeah, it's two main mentors, but there's a whole lot of other people out there who have helped me on my journey as well.
Dan, anything you want to add? Any other questions, or are we in a good place to wrap it up?
Yeah. So just a closing question for me, because obviously me and Greg we haven't got children, but we're looking to go on this digital nomad life. I'd love to know what it's like bringing a family on that journey as well. How's that worked out for you? Has there been any problems, or has it gone quite smoothly?
So I've got two kids. One is 12, one is 7. And we are lucky enough that they were able to get into the schools because my wife works for the government, so that was good. Um, they obviously didn't have a choice in the matter. They were coming with us no matter what. The 12-year-old, both of them have sort of love it and hate it at the same time. My 12-year-old misses his friends at school, at home. He has very different beliefs to what's here on the island, being that age. It's interesting to see the different cultures mix. My 7-year-old loves it. Uh, and we go turtle watching and all that kind of thing. And she's, again, because she's only 7, she's beginning to learn the cultures. Unfortunately, she is beginning to learn American, which is really annoying. There's an American twang begins as we have tomato, and all that kind of thing. But for me, bringing them out here, they are seeing a different form of life. There's no way in Bedford, where we would live, that you would go turtle hunting, that we could go down to the beach and snorkel and see the amazing wildlife or all that kind of thing. So it's just the opportunity to take them out of that box that was in England and bring them out here so they can experience something different. And I'm hoping that give it a few more years when they're older, that when they grow up, they go, "Actually, we love the Cayman Islands because you gave us something different to do." It was something, and it wasn't just black and white out there. It was an amazing part of my childhood. He's hoping anyway.
Well, I actually know Bedford quite well. I've been there a few times, and I can imagine they are complete polar opposites. Unbelievable. Anyway, Simon, thank you so much for your time. Dan, as always, it's been a pleasure. And guys, remember, whatever happens, don't fall into the coach trap.